Hello and welcome to Let's Enter the Arena. I'm your host, VM Campos, and this is the podcast where I chat with a different member of the Magic the Gathering community every single week. And we talk about our tips, tricks, tragedies, triumphs as we focus on MtGArena. This week I've got a return guest to the podcast that hasn't been on in a little while. Please welcome back Anna Madison.
Hi! It's great to be back.
Thanks so much for making the time for this. Can you tell the listeners any links, any social media, anywhere they'd find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at AnnaJaneMTG, as well as on Instagram and Twitch, all the same handle, AnnaJaneMTG.
Great. Thank you. I'll put all of those links in the description and hopefully get you a few more visitors and people on your stream and such. Do you have like a stream schedule, perhaps?
No, I haven't streamed in a while. Still trying to figure out what I want to do and when I want to get back into it, but I've been having some internet issues having my like just connection is really bad, a lot of dropped frames, it's really clunky, so I need to figure out what I'm doing with that first. For some reason I can like Discord call you here, but I can't stream. It's weird.
Well, I use Stream Elements to stream, and I use a plugin, I guess, to stream to YouTube and Twitch at the same time, and 98% of the time it works, but then there's that little bit of percentage that YouTube is looking fine, but then Twitch doesn't work, and I have to turn off the stream and try it again, and then like on the third try, it finally all fully connects. So technology is great when it works, isn't it?
Yeah, and when it doesn't, it's really annoying.
Yes. Okay, so we mostly focus on MtGArena, of course, but it's all about like anything Magic related. Although I have been checking in with guests recently. Have you also perhaps dabbled in the game that everyone loves at the moment that we're in lockdown? Have you played perhaps any Among Us?
I have. It's super fun.
I totally need to jump into it. It's just that I have too many day jobs, and then my other side stuff is just Magic related. But so what are some things that have happened over on Among Us land? Have you ever been the sus one? Did I say that jargon right?
Kind of, yeah, that's fine. I've been the imposter exactly one time, and I won. But it was like it was a full game, so we had two people, and I just kind of, nobody suspected me, so it was pretty great.
Yeah. Like I said, I haven't really played it myself, but I've just seen so many other people play it. Also, like Magic content creators, Gabby Sparks talks about it all the time, and everyone's playing it, I guess. When they get perhaps a little burnt out with Magic, they go off and play that. And it seemed that there was also, what was that other one this year that was pretty popular?
Animal Crossing?
Animal Crossing, yeah, that one's been a big one. But there was that other... There was that other time on Animal Crossing that didn't Elijah Wood stop by people's homesteads and like buy turnips or something? Did you hear about that?
I didn't hear about Elijah, but I know that AOC, Alexandra Cortez, was doing some Animal Crossing stuff, and she was having she was visiting people's islands and whatever.
Yeah,
it's cool.
That's really cool. I think she also did an Among Us, like her very first Among Us stream, and did it get like 500,000 viewers at that moment or something like that?
Yeah, it's absurd. But it's awesome to see, someone who's not only a woman of color, but someone who is also like a gamer.
Yeah.
I know that she also plays League of Legends, so like it's great to see someone that, I'm not a woman of color, but like just seeing someone who's like, female, a nerd, like all of this stuff, kind of having that sort of representation there is absolutely wonderful.
It definitely is. And it's interesting to think about, like myself growing up, I would think about people that are in, official government positions and such as so much older than me. But then, generations come and go. And then we're at a point here where there's someone like basically in my peer group that's at the highest levels of government, and she's doing great stuff in her role. And then as well, like this outreach, she was out there basically, let's play Among Us, but then don't forget to vote, and that sort of thing. So having everyone participate in the democratic process in a fun sort of way like that, I thought that was a great bit of outreach.
Yeah, it's like you just called an emergency meeting, and we don't want anybody to hit the skip vote button. You just want to make sure everyone gets their vote in, and hopefully, you vote for the right person.
Yeah. And I hope people, especially first-time voters, see that yes, this stuff matters. I think people get disenfranchised very easily, especially perhaps if their candidate loses. But democracy is a long-term game. It's not something that you just participate every 4 years, every 2 years, or whatever. It's like maybe we got some big wins or whatever this time around, but we've got to keep going at all of this. So, welcome to Political Chat with VM Campos.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Magic then. So, it's been a bit since you were last on the show, but like maybe in general, what are some thoughts of Magic? Have you been playing? I know we've all been playing a lot of probably digital Magic, but have you had a chance to do any paper Magic or any sort of like maybe Magic through webcams and stuff like that?
I haven't played Magic in months, to be honest. I played a bunch of Ikoria on Arena, and then just when COVID hit, there was this. I just got really, really depressed. Like I started streaming again. I streamed for like 2 weeks, and then I stopped, and I, just didn't really get back into Arena. I did buy the Commander decks in paper, so I built a couple decks like Calamax and the Nakara Yannick partners, which I absolutely fell in love with Nakara after seeing the art. So I was like, I know I have to build that one. And I was able to. I played a webcam game with each commander, but that's it. And this was like a few months ago. So it's been a while.
Now, Ikoria, I think, was just a pretty cool set, though. What did you think about its aesthetic, about these like cool creatures, and they mutate and get bigger, and just great art and such?
I loved it. Like I played mostly limited then because we had the companions came out, and like they kind of like wreck standard, before the nerf, which you never see that kind of like errata in paper, right? Like it was a little mind blowing. But as far as limited goes, like I loved a lot about like. I really liked the for one, I loved the whole like Godzilla thing. I think that was a really cool idea to reskin these Magic cards with other IPs. When you get to like the Walking Dead thing, though, then like that was a big turnoff because it was it's this limited release product you can only get in the US. I think I didn't look that much into it, but I know that as far as the other secret layers, they were like restricted to the US, so I just assume it's the same for that. But like it's just like this limited thing, but those cards are unique, and those cards are going to be legal in all Eternal formats, and it presents a more ethical question of like, is this the path that we really want to go down for this game?
Yeah, I totally agree. That really was a big to-do when it was announced, and I did my own videos and content and stuff about it, and I was also along those lines about I wish it was just a reskin instead of functionally unique cards. It's just such a mixed message that they did reskins for Godzilla cards, where all of those cool Godzilla cards were real Magic cards. But here, you have a real Rick card. You have a real Negan card. It's not like, a reskin of something else. So that's kind of weird.
Or like the other thing that they did when they did the other crossovers with like Dungeons and Dragons, My Little Pony, Transformers. These were on like silver bordered cards. So they were... they're already more of just like a casual, like not like a tournament thing. and I'm, my background is, mostly in paper tournaments. So card availability is definitely an issue. And, then you also have the idea, the fact that the foils aren't, they're being released in foil. I think they're foil.
They
But
often put them in foil, don't they? And then people
right.
don't quite like that either.
Yeah, like not having a non-foil option, you create something like what happened with Nexus of Fate a couple years ago, where you had to basically proxy it, and that just feels like such a bad look. Like, yeah, I mean, it works, it's fine, like you can play with the cards, but like when you're watching a stream and someone puts a swamp with some writing on it on the board, now you're like, what is that? That's weird. Like, and you have to explain that, like, hey, they made this card that's only in foil, and then they can't get to keep their foils, like they can't keep them straight. They're always curling and always crinkling. And then what does that say about the printing process? And what does it say about like their own, the quality of their product?
That's another sort of inconsistent messaging where there have been some secret layers where they reveal and they explicitly say in non-foil version. So they're trying to just perhaps please too many people that are a little perhaps more casual, that I want a nice shiny blinged out card, but then those that actually like play in paper tournaments, that's a detriment. So you've got to proxy it out. So they try to do both apparently, but I guess their numbers show people like the foil, and who knows what official stats they have about casual versus competitive play. Obviously, everyone's welcome to play how they want, but perhaps Wizards sees one more group as more valuable, literally financially valuable. So maybe that's why there's more of a product towards a certain demographic. Maybe that's why there's so many foils, because more casual people perhaps like foils. I know I like them. If you catch them right in the right way, you can get some really beautiful effects. Like one of my favorite ones was the food token in Throne of Eldraine, the one that had like the little scones and pastries. Because do you remember that one? Perhaps it had like little red jam on it, or red strawberries or something. And if you caught it just right in real life, that shine was so beautiful.
Yeah, I can picture it. I don't remember. I probably saw it actually sometime like last year, but I don't remember specifically seeing foils of that. But I totally understand. There's some that I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, but yeah, the foiling process is really beautiful sometimes. But I do think that there's, you make a good point about the about who is Wizard really catering to, right? Because with Arena, we can have like, competitive play in a format that's much more much more like viewer friendly. Like, I'd much rather watch people, jamming, monsters into each other with like cool effects and whatever. Like, Euro comes down and there's this big like cloudy monster, or like, I jumped out of my seat the first time someone cast a Realm Cloak Giant.
Oh yeah.
But here, you play Paper Magic and like the viewing experience is awful. You can't really you can't tell what's going on half the time. There's not like not everything's uniform. People have tokens, but like they're not always going to be the official tokens. If there are tournaments where like people have made a token that didn't exist, or like they didn't have them in the token box, so like now you have to like write it on a piece of paper. It's really awkward. It's really clunky. So and like the rest of the industry, like I've been playing more Hearthstone and Runeterra, and those games don't have paper. Like all of the competitive aspect is online. So Arena lets them like keep up with like what the industry standard is, and the paper cards, like they can have all these different products that are people love their shiny cards. People love their like unique cards. We have these full art cards coming out now. We have like 2 or 3 different kinds of booster packs. Like I feel kind of lost now, because like the last time I bought paper cards was like the Commander box, and Commander Legends is coming out. I don't plan on buying it. I'm like, I don't know. I might buy a couple singles if I want them, but that's it.
Yeah, there is a lot of talk in the community about product overload.
Hmm.
I got back into Magic in 2017. That was right after Hour of Devastation. And I remember it felt like there was a good, healthy amount of space in between sets. Now, I have looked back and I didn't realize that there was a supplemental Commander product here and there, or perhaps there was Eternal Masters or whatever Master set. Those kind of flew under my radar. I really only saw that there was Hour of Devastation, and the new set coming out is Ixalan, and then Rivals of Ixalan, and then Dominaria, and all of that was a healthy. It felt like 3 or 4 months or so in between each, and we're still getting about 3 months in between the big releases. But between the big releases, we're getting secret layers, we're getting commander sets, we're getting precons, we're getting so many things. So it always feels like we're in hype mode for the next set.
Hmm.
Like, did you see the Zendikar Rising big extravaganza trailer and stuff with Jimmy Wong and Becca Scott? Did you catch that?
I didn't.
It was just a big extravaganza where they were like literally traveling around on a map and adventuring, which is the big idea of this current Zendikar set.
Hmm.
And I just felt like as soon as that was over, like literally maybe the next day or so, the Magic website was already talking about here's what's coming next. And the product hadn't even shipped. And they were just like kind of announcing it. And it's like, we're always in hype mode. And every
Hmm.
time I have my streams, I stream pretty consistently every Saturday night. And people that come by, I often not just play a little Magic, but also maybe check out some Magic news and other stuff. And I have been noting recently to my viewers saying, here's the new set coming. I feel like I say that too often. Every time people come to the stream, I feel like I keep saying, here's the new set way too often because it's true. I keep mentioning, here's Zendikar, here's Ikoria, here's Commander Legends. So we're always in hype mode.
Yeah, and it really just helps. You just get burnt out,
Hmm.
and I've definitely been feeling that.
Now, what do you think, though, if instead of the physical products, then with digital, with Arena, which in theory a person can play with zero down, zero payment, does the constant sort of product and such, did that also contribute perhaps to getting a little bit of burnt out and haven't quite played in a little while?
Um, that's part of it. Like, I just yeah, I did play some core set on Arena. I did play some core set. So when that came out, I did play a little bit, and I played. Like I said, I played mostly limited. Constructed was still kind of a mess.
Yes.
Um, there's been so many bannings the past 2 years in standard.
Yeah.
It's a little unsettling.
Hmm.
You know, I will say with the caveat that like other games do have nerfs every. They'll do like 1 or 2 nerfs every set. So like, I don't think it's abnormal for like the meta to be not. I don't think it's
Healthy.
abnormal. Yeah, for it to like necessarily not be healthy for a full like 3 months,
Hmm.
but Magic banning versus just like being able to nerf cards is much more jarring. Like,
Hmm.
if this were like Hearthstone, you would be like, all right, well, um, Oko is like, wow, that's way too powerful. It's much more powerful than we wanted it at 3 mana. Like, what if we just made Oko cost 4 mana and start with start with 3 loyalty instead of 4? Like we
Hmm.
can tune these knobs that maybe we didn't have enough time or enough eyes on it in development. We can tune these knobs after release and make these cards, a little more balanced.
Hmm.
But being tied to paper kind of makes that impossible.
That's definitely the consensus from the community that because it's tied to this classic paper game that's been around 27 years, they have that sort of like legacy aspect of things. So it just
Mhm.
gets harder to tune those knobs because playing it in paper or versus the digital version, you have that disparity. Maybe they have their in-house testers and such, and they're probably playing on paper, printed out proxies, whatever, not enough eyes on it perhaps. But then when you start to release the cards to the internet, the whole hive mind of the internet figures out every possible change. Now, some are way more egregious, of course, like Oko was just like egregious out of the gate. But other things like, what about the Heliod plus Walking Ballista combo, infinite combo
Mhm.
sort of thing. So that was obviously people brewing in the community, just putting cards together. And Wizards seems like they focus more on current set, current standard, maybe a little bit of constructed, but definitely limited. So there's just that's the big puzzle piece of Magic. There's just so many moving pieces that the company itself can't figure it out, but then you throw it out to the hive mind of the internet and they'll figure it out.
Yeah, and like I was like thinking about like other games, like Magic just has to ban things, so
Mm-hmm.
it's just such a more jarring thing. It's like, okay, now I bought these Oros that were like $60 and now they're like
Mm-hmm.
$20 because of bans, and you're like, this sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Can't just like get your gems back or anything. It's really weird. um it's just really weird how they have to kind of balance the digital versus paper, because I feel like both forms just, they have enough differences that maintaining the same card set over both of them is
Mm-hmm.
a very daunting task.
Now, what do you think if they were perhaps to tie together the paper and digital a little bit more in terms of you get some kind of compensation in from paper? Like, what if you mail back the card to Wizards after the banning? After Uro got banned, you fill out their form, you mail it back, and then they send you X amount of boosters from the last value of it. Is that like way too complicated to try to do any compensation? Because it's so easy for them to compensate on Arena. That's like, here's your, sorry I burned down your village. Here's some wild cards. But then in on paper, what do you think about that? Coupling it.
I think that is just terrible, because there's like a lot of, you know, how do you determine like what the value of the card should be? And then also, there also just kind of predicates them acknowledging the whole secondary market.
Mhm.
And then it just kind of breaks that precedent of like, we're going to release the cards and then people are going to do what they want with them. And
Mhm.
if we start like getting our fingers in there, then you're kind of undermining the models that these stores and buyers and buy lists and whatever have like established. And now a ban is not going to be like, okay, we can pick up a lot of this inventory for really cheap. Now people are going to send them into Wizards, they're going to get boosters, and then there are going to be more cards on the market, which are going to make the
Mhm.
cards that are still legal are going to be like, going to be worth less.
Mhm.
It's going to, it opens up a really big box. I mean, to be fair, like having these like secret layers kind of does a little bit of that too, but
Yeah.
like I feel like your example might be a little bit too much.
Yeah, and as you reasoned it out, it actually stopped me. I was about to say something, but your
Mhm.
reasoning definitely makes sense. But let me say what I was going to say. But this is even worse. I was going to say, put a fixed value. You know how you just said, well, how do you determine the value? Here's the fixed value. If they ever have to ban a mythic, you automatically give a person one box of the latest set. But then, like, nope, whoops, that's flooding the market. So never mind. So
That's a lot of product for.
yeah, so exactly. So good thing you reasoned it out and it stopped me from saying it. But whoops, I said it anyway. Now, perhaps one more concept, one more idea on this whole thing, in terms of the we were talking about the perhaps boring nature of paper Magic compared to the flashy nature of having these events and so forth on Arena. What do you think if perhaps Wizards were sort of coaching players in terms of, how about you make it a little flashier when you put your card down, windmill slam it down, and coaching the players to be animated in a way that when I watch these, most people are not. They're like very, very serious. I need to play the card play perfectly. But what about a little bit of showboating to help people enjoy the paper version of things?
I don't know if you can force that.
Yeah.
Like, there's a point where like it's hard to like force people to, it actually, like, I'm a big wrestling fan,
Mhm.
and it reminds me of like how wrestling matches are staged,
Mhm.
and you sort of get the same, like, this gives me like the same sort of image in my head of like the way you're describing it. It's like, all right, well, I'm gonna do this this move at a certain time, I'm gonna pick up my card and this thing, and like, I don't know. I mean, I get the idea of like saying, hey, can you be a little more animated, but
Mhm.
like, how do you do that in a way that looks authentic
Yeah.
and doesn't look like it's either way too forced, or that you're kind of scripting, or maybe you're just, you would look more like you're scripting the game or something. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
hard to imagine how that could actually work,
Yeah, and I guess also if there is just a more introverted player, that would be difficult on them to
Hmm.
try to be something that they're not. So there is this impasse, there is this unflashiness of it all that perhaps smarter minds than mine will figure out how to make it more interesting. But remember, the very last big event that we had, I guess it was Mythic Championship something 678, whatever it was, when it was in Hawaii, and we had all of the
Hmm.
the pomp and circumstance of that, and I thought that was like their most impressive tournament. Again, but however, I don't have a history from before 2017. I don't know if anything was more extravagant than that, but it just really seemed that last one that we had before we got into lockdown, that was like a great way to really get eyeballs on the game.
Was that paper, or was that digital?
That's a good question. What was it? I think it was digital because I remember they also said, well, there's no easy way to show the drafting process. So they had
Right.
done the drafting and then recorded it and put commentary and sort of dressed it up. Yeah, so it was digital now that I think about it.
Right. They had like player drafts ready for Ikoria, but yeah, I didn't watch the coverage, but I just remember hearing about it. They like did like
Mhm.
paper drafts with boosters and then like coded the decks
Yeah.
for the players to play with.
Hmm. Well, then that leads us perhaps into our topic of the future of Arena. There is a state of the game, and that is, well, they just added Kaladesh remastered to the client, so it was the greatest hits of Kaladesh plus Aether Revolt. They've just added it to Arena, and if you kind of browse over this plan of what they're doing, unfortunately, I don't see anything here about Spectator Mode, which is one of the big things that
Uh,
people are talking about. Like, if we're trying to be a premier esport, it's very clunky how they do this, trying to show these games and these events. And according to this latest roadmap, there isn't anything listed here about Spectator Mode. Thoughts?
right. There's this little paragraph about mobile,
Yeah.
which is like, I mean, like, I'm like, whatever. Like, I don't think that's going to make me want to play Arena more, but I think it's great
Mhm.
and something that, they're definitely long overdue for. But the whole spectator mode thing is like kind of baffling. Like, I'm pretty, like, Runeterra's been out for like, I don't know, like a year or so.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
Mhm.
they're like unveiling their like spectator mode very shortly. I think like the last update I read from them, they're doing it. Um, Obviously, like, Hearthstone does it, and I've been doing a little bit of commentary lately.
Mhm.
Um, for both Hearthstone and Magic. I did some Magic earlier in the year, and Hearthstone, and like, you could see the difference
Mhm.
as a caster of like how much easier it is to do Hearthstone coverage because you have spectator mode. Whereas with Magic, it was weird. Like we'd have to like be playing in Discord, and then you'd like watch the one person on Discord or something. I don't quite remember, but it was really clunky. As far as like, we'd have some taped matches, so they'd have to like render the video in a certain way so that you could see the hands, like, and they'd have to, you know, kind of clip the hands from the other player out of that video, whereas Hearthstone just handles it all.
Yeah.
You know?
I often read commentary from the community about that MtGArena has so much jealousy towards Hearthstone and all of that, and now here's another upstart to be jealous of, Runeterra, and they've got, as you're saying, Spectator Mode coming very soon, so perhaps the competition will kickstart the MtGArena crew to add these things that we're missing. I don't think that they'll take it as slow as they've done forever. I think by seeing the competition and seeing the grass is greener on the other side, I think that'll be a good impetus. But unfortunately, that it had to be something else that really kind of pushed them in this direction. You kind of have to think back, what was the original, perhaps 5-year plan for Arena? Because Arena was in closed beta, I believe it's starting in early 2018. That's 2 years ago, 2 years, 9 months, etc. That's almost 3 years now that we've had a beta version, at least of Arena, and then they went public beta, I think in like late 20, yes, sometime around like September 2018. So let's say we take it from open beta, September 2018 or so. That's already 2 years there that it's still missing some things. We recently got emotes and a chat client with friends, and they're supposed to add deck sharing soon, but stuff like Spectator Mode and such. Do you think they had like a big overall 5-year plan for Arena, or maybe just had short-term goals?
I'm sure they had a plan somewhere, but like, it's hard to, I mean, you can't really know what your competition's going to be doing. One of the things I noticed with the newest Hearthstone update is like they revamped their like rewards track. So now they have a thing where you can buy, well, they have like a free rewards track for the set, and then you can buy an upgraded rewards track, which gives you more cosmetics and such. And that sounds a lot like a mastery pass to me. Like the basic path is like when you get your experience, then you like level up, and each level there's like a pack or like some gold or whatever, and then the upgraded one has like the new heroes and whatever in Hearthstone. So it kind of reminds me of how in Magic you're like, all right, well, you have the basic path, which gives you basic rewards. You buy the mastery pass and you get like extra rewards, and you do that every set, and like it definitely shows how these games are kind of drawing a little bit of influence each other. One game does something and they kind of like, oh, I like how this game's doing it, we're gonna pick this up.
One of my side gigs is I do social media for clients, and so I try to keep up with all of the social networks, and I see that in the social networks that, okay, Snapchat was an answer to other social networks that were out where what you tweeted or what you posted on Facebook was, quote, permanent. Well, Snapchat came out, we're going to create self-destructing content that after 24 hours, that embarrassing picture of you in a keg stand is going to go away, no problem. So then other networks got that same great idea with stories, and so we started to see stories on Facebook and such. And now we've just seen stories. I don't know if you've noticed stories revealed on Twitter, which they're called fleets.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing.
Exactly. It's a thing that everyone, someone gets an idea and then everyone else gets the same idea, but slightly different. I think I saw someone share a meme that was, wow, the new Arena update is really something. And it was a screenshot of Arena, and then it was copy pasted. They put those fleets on top just to show that Arena now has stories.
Oh, it's just, they're all going to be 90% salt.
Yeah. Everything is going to be everything. In the
Mhm.
history of these social networks, as I said, I do this, I keep up to date with this, and I remember that Twitter really felt like Twitter, and Facebook felt like Facebook, and every network felt like its own network. Then they just homogenized so much, everyone. They all got video, they all got longer text, they all got group sharing, they all got stories. Twitter even had this other thing that is like completely dead, which is moments. Do you remember that aspect of Twitter? Moments?
It sounds vaguely familiar.
It was, I feel like it was their first version of stories, and this
Hmm.
came out a few years ago. So I was actually looking at it earlier, and I see the moments icon in my Twitter on my phone, and then I click it, and it says you don't have any moments. Create moments on your desktop. So that's a fail for them. Like people are using so much mobile that to create that content you have to go to your computer, and so you're not going to get that traffic to moments. And so I went to moments in on the computer, and I was trying to remember, how does this even work? Oh, and it's you gather a variety of tweets that exist, and you kind of put them together into a little story. So it's not the exact same like self-destructing sort of thing, but it's putting together short little snippets of things that kind of went nowhere. So what I'm just getting at
Right.
is just that things sometimes they give us features that we don't ask for, and we're asking for features and we don't get them, which brings us back to Arena. We're asking for spectator mode, and instead we get, did you see the updates about getting those cute little weird phrases instead of like, hello or your go? We have like new phrases.
I saw somebody talk about that, but I don't remember exactly what it was. You
And
know.
yeah, and it'll unfortunately the Magic website's a little tricky to navigate, so for me to find the article to show you might take a moment, but let me explain what it is. You can now pick, instead of having the standard replies of your go or hello or whatever else is in there, you can pick these other phrases, but there's some really weird ones. One is like let me try to think of one. I see them all the time, but I forget them. One is like Zendikar is restless. So I guess that's a way of saying like your go, because Zendikar is restless. And then
Okay.
there's another one. Instead of saying hello, this one says a new dawn, a new adventure. So like they're
Hmm.
really artistic, but did anyone ask for these? Did anyone like them? I know I sometimes use them once in a while when the current ones get boring, which is very fast because there's only like four or five of them, right? But
Right.
people are asking for like more substantial things, and they're adding some of these things that people don't quite ask for.
Yeah. I haven't really seen anything about that, so it's hard for me to have like a really more nuanced opinion. But it sounds cool if they're customizable, but it don't think the way you're describing it, it doesn't seem like it's the way that people want them to be. Like they don't want them to be like overly cutesy and like they just would like something of like, how do I say your go, but in a different way,
Hmm.
like you know, you're up, pal, or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And then it would be too much of a Pandora's box to make it fully editable, because then of
Oh
course
yeah.
people would abuse that. So
Mhm.
they have to have that fine line in terms of, we got the ability to chat, but it's with friends, of course. You have to approve the connection. I think
Mhm.
like full chat would be pretty bad, just as it's pretty bad on MitGo. So I think they learn from the past, but then
Mhm.
sometimes they kind of go off in different tangents.
Yeah. You know, you were to go back to the whole like social media thing. I forgot what the name was, but the whole moments thing kind of reminds me of the Instagram highlights,
Hmm.
right? You can pick your
Yeah.
best stories and you can like show them off
Yeah, keep them,
of your profile.
because stories were always transitory, but then highlights are those that you can keep more permanent. So, yeah, one network gets a great idea, then they all get that great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk about a few cards over here. I'm gonna send you this link
Okay.
over here. So I'm gonna pass this link over here. This is the definitive collection of all of the companions of Ikoria. Any favorites here? Any ones that stood out? Any ones that are the bane of your existence?
Lutri is super super cute. Love him. Or I'm not sure exactly sure like what the pronouns are for this cute little otter, but I love them. They're so
Yeah.
cute. I love otters. I have an otter tattoo, so
Ah.
um, yeah. But it's not. Oh, it's super fun to draft too, literally,
Mm.
because you're drafting a singleton deck.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
That was kind of a cool concept, in exactly like you said, a singleton deck in draft. So
Mhm.
taking the classic way to draft, but then tossing a little bit of singleton, a little bit of commander-ishness to it. And speaking of commander, this was the first and only emergency ban that they had to like day zero ban this.
Mhm.
The commander rules committee had to emergency ban this poor little otter.
Yeah, because like every deck can play it if you're blue red,
Yeah.
which is just not fair, you know. I
Mhm.
think I think they should let you have it be your commander. I think that would make sense, but I'm not on the committee, so who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mhm.
There's a reason why they're doing what they do. So
Yeah, there's, I'm sure, a lot of discussion and thought and great players that are just trying to figure all of this out. And it seems like they also have some amount of an in with WotC to have been able to ban it early. So yeah, it's interesting that it cannot be a companion. It's basically gone. So they'd have to kind of like have special rules. And I get that you don't want to put special rules for so many things, banned as companion but not commander, vice versa, etc. So yep, Lutri,
mhm.
so cute, so banned. Right, what's another one?
I guess I the Gyruda decks were just awful. I hated those like mega clone decks.
Mhm.
But Loris always stuck out to me too. Like Loris is the kind of card that I love playing with, that I love to like try to break and try to abuse. So I definitely played a little bit with that in standard when the set was out with the Rakdos sacrifice decks.
I was playing a mono white deck in standard with Lurus, and after the nerf, definitely it was felt because of the 2 extra mana. Something like Yorion or Gyruda that is that much mana. Well, you're still gonna prep your hand and paying that extra mana to move it over from the companion zone to your hand is no big deal. But with Lurus, and I also liked playing with Kahira. That's another 3 mana
Mm-hmm.
cat critter, and before the nerf, it was I liked the deck. It wasn't extremely competitive, is because I like to play a lot of meme decks. I like to play a lot of like tribal decks. So I was playing a cat deck, and Kahira was amazing because it's a little cat lord, and it gives all your
Mm-hmm.
cats or beasts or dinosaurs or nightmares some cool buffs. But after the nerf, you had to then spend that extra mana just to prep Kahira into your hand before playing it directly.
Mm-hmm.
So same thing with Lurus. I was able to do a lot of shenanigans with that one. It was a mono white deck with that one Alseed of Life's Bounty and Ginger Brute and all of that stuff. But I think there's a bug in the system. This reminded me when I was playing that deck, I had in there Stone Coil Serpent, right? The X creature. And
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that when I summoned it, and paid like let's say 2 mana for it or 3 mana for it. When I tried to bring it back from the graveyard through Luris's ability, it would only come back as the last mana that I paid for it. Even if I had like 5 mana, I couldn't bring it back from the graveyard as a 5/5. It would only come back as the 2/2 that I cast it the first time that I cast it. I don't know if you ever experienced that.
No, I never had that happen. That's weird. Did you ever check if that was a bug? Because I don't think that should work that way, right?
Yeah, the logic of it would be that I can cast it. It's a zero casting cost technically because X is zero automatically, and I'm trying to cast it as the card says, but it says during each of your turns you may cast one permanent with CMC of cost of 2 or less. Well, I guess rereading it, maybe it's even though it's an X creature because Loris has that condition, I Yes, that's the maximum you could pay for it, although it's counterintuitive.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, any other companions perhaps that come to mind?
Uh, Nothing I really like sticks out. Um, for me, I mean the I notice how the even and odd ones, Obash and Garuda definitely like reminded me of the Hearthstone heroes that like, or the Hearthstone legends that if you had them in your deck, they would, and you had all odd cards or all even cards, they would change the way that your hero power works.
Mhm.
So I that those happened like a year or two ago, and they had to be nerfed too, which was kind of funny. So it wasn't surprising to see these nerfed, and to see Magic kind of dip into that kind of space.
Well, that is about perhaps how we said earlier that they do look at each other, they do get inspiration from each other. So that might just be
Hmm.
another example, perhaps a version of parallel thinking.
Yeah, and there actually is a note on the Gatherer for Luris. Like it's like the third note down. If you click on it,
Hmm.
that
Let's see.
explains that you can't cast X for more than two.
Oh, yeah, there it is. For spells with
Yeah.
X in their mana, use the value chosen for X to determine, for example, if a permanent spell cast it with X but one. Huh. Yeah, that's way more rules text than I thought would have been for this, but cards are getting more complicated nowadays.
Hmm.
Hmm. Now, here's a little background, or here's a little behind the scenes info. I had Matt Tabak on the podcast a few months ago. He is the he's a Wizards employee. I apologize, I forget his title at the moment, but he was on Mark Rosewater's podcast a few months ago, and then he had mentioned at the end of the podcast, "Hey, if you've got a podcast, reach out to me. I'll come on your podcast." So I thought, okay, sure, I'll send him a tweet and say, "Hey, do you want to be on my podcast?" So he said, "Sure." We worked it out, and he got on the podcast, and he talked for almost 3 hours. So it was a two-part episode. So I got a lot of cool behind-the-scenes information from a Wizards employee. And what this relates to us at the moment is that the companion Karuga, in the beginning, he read the secret file that they all have access to. Karuga, which is currently now a dinosaur hippo, it was originally going to be a squirrel crab.
That's funny. Would have loved to see a squirrel crab.
Yeah. They've had squirrel nightmare, they've had other crabs, but just imagine a squirrel
Mhm.
crab.
I mean, dinosaur hippo's kind of a cool type too. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
Yeah, the art is pretty cute. It's kind of regal. They are kind of regal and with a big tail and then the tusks and everything. I kind of like this style of art where magic oscillates between like the tough, badass stuff, but then also cool or cute or interesting things. There's been like some recent dogs that have been like super cute in the art that you would kind of think they'd be in a silver border set, but they're in a real magic set.
Mhm.
And something like Karuga or many of these companions, they feel like they'd be something in an unset. But here we have them as real cards. So what do you think about that sort of range of style of magic art?
Um, yeah, I definitely enjoy having those kind of more whimsical looking things.
Mhm.
Um, like going back to Lutri, I just love that cute little otter with
Yeah.
that, with the that like electricity coming out of his little cute little paws.
Yeah.
Obosh is really cute too. Like, it's a little kind of, I don't know, cute's not the right word, but like definitely reminds me like a big like gross bug.
Yeah.
um, yeah, no, I definitely like seeing, like Cauldron Familiar, like some of these
Mhm.
other cats look really cute.
Mhm.
It's nice.
Speaking of cute cats, there is in the Commander Legends coming soon. What's it called? Falthus or something? There's so many interesting names. Yeah, that's it. I remembered it. Falthus. Let me send this one to you. This previous guest and I were talking about some Commander Legends cards,
Mhm.
and He knows that I'm like the cat player, so we were just talking about cards, and he says, "Did you see this card? This cat, and that cat." So here's a new cat coming out in the next set. This is one of these that's kind of going towards that range, isn't it? It's trying to be, tough looking, but this little nightmare cat, it's still pretty cute with the little ears and the glowing eyes and the
Mhm.
raised fur and everything. It almost looks like a mohawk sort of fur.
Yeah, I mean, if it didn't have Death Touch, I would love to pet it.
Well, all you need is indestructible, and you'll be fine.
All right, awesome.
We'll play what's it called? Make a stand or something. It's that one white card. Gives your things
Yeah,
indestructible. Yeah. So
or
good.
just what? Or I don't know. Never. I can't think of another card.
Some maybe some sort of I was gonna say, well, all you have to be is Ulamog, and then you'll be able to pet it, no problem.
Yeah, of course. But I'd rather just mill your deck then. That's more my style.
Yeah. Well, you had said you hadn't maybe you looked at a couple of Commander Legends cards or anything. Any thoughts on that, or maybe I'll toss you one or two cards, or
Yeah, just throw me some cards.
well, what about this one first? Okay, Falthis. This is an example of they are bringing back partner. I forgot to ask.
Mhm.
What's your history or your general thoughts in Commander format?
Um, I haven't played a lot of it.
Hmm.
It's something I'd like to play more, but just kind of the awkwardness of webcam Commander
Yeah.
has kind of like shied me away from playing more of it. Like I just really can't wait to like sit down and play Paper Commander with people, but that's not a thing right now. So,
Yeah.
kind of just counting the days till I get to go to an event and do that. But like as far as um my limited experience, I really like it. I think, you know, partner does have, some issues.
Yeah.
Um, because so if anything we learn anything from companions, like having an extra card outside of the game is an extra card in your hand. It's an extra card that you get to play over everyone else. So, um, one of the two decks that I played was a pair of partners, and I think the idea of partnering with something else is nice because you have that little bit of restriction where you're like, well,
Hmm.
if we're going to play this commander, then like we can only partner with this one. So they do have their own little synergy, but also they're they're designed to and should be balanced in a way where their partner synergy isn't something that becomes like overbearing or like too much.
Hmm.
Um, one of the other interesting things I saw somebody talk about on Twitter lately was like, it'd be great if there were like cards that partnered with old cards, or if like, they print a new card that says like, partner with a Chroma Angel of Wrath or something, like
Mm.
partners with some older legend.
Mm.
And, the way partner reads is you can have two commanders if they both have partner, but like you can't like kind of reprint a chroma with a rata that says this has partner with
Yeah.
whatever. So if they could change the way partner worked, that partner, I guess generic partner is fine, but like you could partner with and still partner with the old card, but still have them both be your like commander. Like you could print
Mm.
something that says partner with, something, partner with Phage the Untouchable or something.
Yeah.
Like
That's
that would be cool.
yeah, I like that idea definitely. Let me play devil's advocate, however, in terms of if we are picking some of these older cards that were, never meant for a commander, there is that barrier to entry that someone has to buy that card, and maybe that would be prohibitive. What about? I like how you're saying about partnering with specifics, but what about they limited to what is standard or what is pioneer or what is modern, so that it's not the full breadth of 27 years of cards, and then it might be harder to get some of those older ones.
I mean, I think if they did that, they'd have to print the card in the set. So if they did like a commander box with it for the
Mm.
thing, for like their like yearly commander decks, like you would do something with like you'd have a new partner that partners with an old card, and you'd
Mm-hmm.
have like 5 decks where like each one was a new card partnered with an old card. And then like you'd get like a cool alt version of the old card, and then you get the new card. Or a set like Commander Legends would be something where you could do that, where you could just do like a reprint of the old card.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of removes any of like the reserve list cards from being part of this, but you
Yeah.
can't really have everything. Plus, there's always Rule Zero, so you could always just do whatever you want anyway.
Yes, definitely.
Just as long as everyone's cool with it.
Yeah, people forget about that. I think power creep is a little common. I know in my real life play group, we haven't played in paper Commander in a while, but I was starting to see my play group getting a little bit into power creep about wanting to get the best cards, and here I am wanting to play a little bit more jank, a little bit more tribal, a little bit less powered, but it's just the allure of, yeah, you get to play a bunch of cool cards. Winning is good, but I want to try to win a little bit more, so I'll get better cards. So people were worried that the new Commander Legends would just add more fuel to that fire, that there'd be so many broken cards here that it would become even more, in some people's eyes, pay to win type of a game. But now that the whole set has been revealed, the commentary seems to say that yes, there's one or two or three that are like really almost must-haves, but the whole set itself is not as overpowered as people were afraid it might be.
Yeah. I mean, there's also proxies. That's something like,
Mhm.
I'm not the kind of person who's just going to print out a whole deck and like show up with, but if I have like, I had a friend send me like some like custom proxies, and I'm like, okay, well, these cards are pretty cool. Like, I didn't really want to buy a Mana Confluence, but I have this cool custom proxy that she made that I'm like, I'll definitely just throw this in a deck,
Mhm.
I think it's kind of rude that to not, because she just sent it to me for free. So I'm like, I'm not going to just let them,
Yeah.
they're, I will say they are sitting around because I haven't adjusted my decks in months, but
Yeah.
they're in the pile of cards that I'm like, I'm definitely going to put these in one of my decks.
They're in the to-do pile that one day you will resurrect.
Yeah, it's like the next time I change my decks, they are going in. I just don't know when that's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's 2020. You can't really see too far in advance or plan too far in advance.
Yep. We got like 7 weeks left of this, and then we're in a new year.
Yeah, hopefully that'll reset people's perspectives and get some action going on. I think things snowball, either positively or negatively. I think we've snowballed pretty negatively this whole year. Did you see the news article about how the famous Rockefeller Christmas tree was put up, and it said the tree this year perfectly encompassed 2020 because it was like falling apart and scraggly, and it was like they were saying it was like a Charlie Brown tree.
I was just gonna say that, like the whole like Charlie Brown thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't see anything about that, but yeah, that kind of wraps everything up pretty nicely.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me send you one more card here. This is a very
Okay.
unique card. This is the Prismatic Piper. This is a
Oh
common
yeah.
legendary creature, and it's colorless at 5. The art is pretty amazing. I like Seb McKinnon's artwork. He's always got some interesting visuals. And so it's a very interesting design in terms of, okay, if the prismatic, well, it's kind of just weird how they have to jump. Wizard has created a language of their rules that they have to jump into these hoops themselves that just sound so awkward sometimes. So if
Mm.
the Prismatic Piper is your commander, choose a color before the game begins. The Prismatic Piper is the chosen color. So I'm just kind of harping on the word if. Like, obviously, I'm choosing it for my deck, so why is there an if there? It kind of feels like that grammatical word doesn't make sense grammatically, but it obviously makes sense within their world of the whole rules engine. One of the things that really gets my goat is when they've got some cards that say creatures you control get +1. I wish they would simply say all your creatures, because sometimes the wording of things, when there's one sentence and it ends and there's another sentence, sometimes I think for beginner players, without explicitly saying all your creatures, might make people think, well, all creatures, including my opponents. But no, it's mine affecting
Mhm.
mine. But anyways, just a little word there. But yeah, this Prismatic Piper, pretty weird art, pretty interesting card. What do you think about this new common legend?
I think it's neat. I think it's something that they get to, it's basically there to like you can take a partner and then you can just add a third color.
Hmm.
This is just a 5 mana 3/3. Like it's sort of like the whole thing where you'd put a companion in your deck. Like this was like Gigantha a lot. If your deck didn't have any of the same, if it fulfilled the restriction, you would make Gigantha your companion.
Hmm.
You probably aren't going to cast it, because it's basically just a 5 mana 5/5,
Hmm.
but it's an extra card that you always have access to. So, Prismatic Piper kind of is in the same vein if you're picking that as your partner. Like it doesn't do anything, but it's just an extra body that you can draw. But the relevant part is that it lets you, choose a third color with, or, it gets you choose an extra color with whatever your partner is. So I think it's nice to see them filling these kind of holes that solve problems that like some people might have when they're looking at their like what deck they want to build. Like,
Hmm.
I want to build oh god, what's a partner? Just like a generic partner. Like, oh, I just want to build this cat.
Yeah,
I want to build a Falthus deck, but I want to add blue
yeah.
in my Nightmare Cat deck, and like I don't know how I'm gonna put that in but I want to play some blue cards, so I'm just gonna make this my partner choose blue, and then now I can build a Demir deck with my Falthus commander.
Hmm. I like that the company is constantly exploring different avenues for a game
Mhm.
that's 27 years old and counting. They have many directions that they can go. So exactly, I completely agree in what you said, and it makes sense. I want to splash colors. I want to have abilities that are not in this color. For a long time, there was very limited in black. There was very limited enchantment removal. So
Mhm.
okay, I can remove enchantments pretty easily in white or green. So Prismatic Piper will let me grab that color as well.
Yeah, it is everything and nothing.
One thing, though, unfortunately, I have to point this out. Are you as triggered as me with the art? Because if you look carefully, the Wooburg order is completely wrong.
Oh my god! Wait, so it goes from like black on the bottom to like blue, green, red, and then like white for like
Yeah.
the face of the Piper. I didn't even notice that.
I'm sorry I've ruined the rest of your evening, but yep, that's what I
No,
see.
I was just admiring I was admiring when you mentioned the art. I was admiring just like the head, because it looks like
Yeah.
something that you would find in like the Mirage block. To me, it looks like
No,
something
for sure.
that kind of fits that, but then it's kind of stuck on this weird little wave thing, this
Mm,
wavy worm body. It's
mm.
cool though.
Yeah, yeah. I'm joking, of course. It is great art. This artist is one of my favorite ones. They are one of the ones that have definitely their own style. Thinking back on those old sets, Mirage, and all of those '90s sets where there was less of a uniformity of art styles, you could get such a range of artists from towards the more realistic or the cartoony, someplace in between. I remember Richard Kane Ferguson's art back in the '90s was pretty amazing art. I remember Phil and Kaya Folio, they had a very cartoony style.
Mhm.
There was some of them that were starting to get very realistic. I'm blanking on the name, but back in the '90s, there was like no set style guide. Nowadays, artists are amazing. Of course, they'll be able to do things a million times better than me. But unfortunately, I feel that too much of a house style is too much. It's a little bit too interchangeable sometimes, the art. And obviously, I'm not trying to put down any of these amazing artists, but it's just Wizards' choice that they're trying to make a lot of uniform art, probably. But when something like this art stands out, it definitely stands out and it's memorable, I think, compared to the everything super realistic, very, very well drawn, but too realistic.
Yeah, definitely. Haven't paid too much attention to art as much lately, but I really enjoyed that Ron Spencer got a card recently. I forget what it was, but he was always my favorite artist. But I don't think he's like he hasn't done anything in like almost a decade
Yeah.
for Magic. So it was really nice to see him get another card.
I'm trying to see if I can find it here. Let me send it to you here. This is the list of Spencer art, I think in order, kind of. And so, oh yeah, Mana Crypt and Doubling Season and Brainstorm.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they were in
Double Masters.
that other. Oh my God, that was this year, right?
That's everyone's exclamation nowadays.
Yeah, like the new Brainstorm is super sweet. I'm like, I wanted to buy one for my Calamix deck, but I didn't want to spend the money. But now it's not as much. It's only like $8 now, so it's not that bad. Oh my God, the list! I forgot they have the list now. Ugh. I just we were like overload. Oh my God, so much product overload. Like mystery boosters.
Yeah.
It's just making me tired. I don't want to think about this anymore.
It's just too much to keep track of, definitely. And unfortunately, you don't know what is in what product. I did buy for the latest Zendikar. I did buy some of the set boosters, which is their new alternative type of booster. It's not designed for draft. It is more of a collector booster, but not the collector booster that's so expensive. It was just designed in that you're going to get... There's slots, and they even named them, and Mark Rosewater had a presentation video about it. Like the first 3 are going to be this sort of concept, and then the next 3 are going to be this concept. And in one booster pack, you get all of these little concepts and stories as you open up the cards and you have an experience. But I think it's a little, again, it's a little too much hype, too much product, perhaps too often.
Definitely.
Well, on that positive note, let's wind down the podcast. Okay, on a real positive note, let's examine the Doubling Seasons art from Ron Spencer. It's a couple of cute dinosaurs emerging from some eggs. They're getting doubled and everything, and those are really cute dinosaurs with cute red eyes and everything. So let's end on that positive note.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing that I used to love of his. He did some super cute cards. If you look through this thing, the 2 Squirrel Lords from Unglued. Oh yeah. He also had there was the one in Unsanctioned too, a 3rd Infernal Spawn of Evil. Yeah, that came out too. Yeah, but yeah, there's definitely some everything's super detailed, but I feel like there's something really cute that I wanted to point out from him that I think you would like. Oh God. Yeah,
just browsing this art. Some of it is memorable. Terror. He did the original Terror. Talk about a cute card, right?
That's cute's a word.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite cards, definitely from that age.
There is. Oh yeah, he did Cabal Therapy too, which is really sweet. Oh geez, I'm sorry. I'm awful.
That's okay, I'll be editing it. Neckrite, that's the one that you mean, right? The one with that weird Thrall licking a bloody knife?
No. Might of Oaks. Definitely. Bear Cub, yes. There we go. Bear Cub is adorable.
Trying to find it. From what set was it? Oh, he also did a Squirrel token. Yeah, he's done a lot of... I'm already on page X or whatever. He did a lot of art. I never quite realized that, but some of the... Yeah, there it is, Bear Cub. Yeah, that is amazing. There's the cute... Oh, there's a cute little bear. It's looking at a bee, and then there's the mother bear behind it, and there's even a couple of dandelions. Flavor text. Every little cub has its mother's teeth to guard it. Elvish last saying.
Nice, yeah.
Well, that was a nice trip through memory lane on one of these classic Magic artists. I hope they bring back more of them. They actually did bring back a variety of vintage Magic artists to be the alternate art for the Double Masters alternate cards. So I hope they would do that a few more times just to see again that variety of art styles. And have even been some secret layers that their art has also gone really, really interesting and weird. So I hope they continue to do some of these weird, cool, interesting, unconventional arts.
Yeah, me too.
Well, Anna, as we wind down, let's remind people where they can find you online.
I am at Anna Jane MTG at Twitter, also on Instagram and Twitch, same handle, Anna Jane MTG.
Great. I'll put those links in the show notes. And as for myself, I'm VM Campos everywhere on Twitter and Instagram and Twitch, and the only catch is on YouTube. I was not able to get VM Campos on YouTube. I am VM Campos JR, so make sure people put in that JR part. Although if you search for VM Campos, mine is the account that first appears. So that's the bane of social media, not getting the name that you want. You're lucky you got the name that you wanted on all your platforms, basically, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That sick brag that you show up first, though.
Yeah, that other account, they created their account a while ago, and I think it's someone from Brazil, and they have not used the account in years. And here I am making like new YouTube videos every single week, and I have to, at least I appear first, but you know, I would have loved the icing on the cake would have been that it's VM Campos on YouTube, because that's the platform basically that I think that I'm the most active.
Yeah, well, hopefully you can, maybe just shoot him a message and try to buy the account.
Oh yeah. Try to grease some palms, slip in a Black Lotus to someone's hand or something, and see what happens.
I wouldn't go that far.
I don't know, if I get really famous on YouTube, I'll be able to buy one back.
That's true.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, and hopefully next time that you're on, it doesn't take as long for you to come back.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to come back sooner.
Yeah.
Whenever you're willing to have me. It's fine.
Well, thank you for being on the show. Thank you, listener, for listening to the latest episode. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Help the podcast go viral. This has been VM Campos, and I'll see you in the arena.